There are forms of loneliness that do not begin in adulthood and do not emerge from isolation, but are shaped quietly in childhood when a young mind grows without emotional presence. Emotionally neglected children do not always realize that something essential was missing. Often, they grow up believing their emotional silence is natural, that their needs are a burden, that the world simply works without room for their inner experiences. Their loneliness is not dramatic or visible. It is subtle, woven into the moments when they learn to comfort themselves because no one else noticed their discomfort, when they buried their fears because expressing them felt pointless, when they understood that their feelings were theirs alone to hold. The lonely life of an emotionally neglected child does not begin with an event, but with a pattern. It begins when the child senses again and again that their emotions do not register in the minds of those around them. It is the experience of speaking without being truly heard, of hurting without being asked what is wrong, of needing reassurance that never arrives. The child adjusts. They learn to shrink their emotional world until it fits inside a single quiet space within themselves. And from that moment on, their loneliness becomes a constant companion, unspoken, unnoticed, but deeply formative. This kind of loneliness shapes how a child sees themselves. They begin to believe that their feelings lack importance, that they should not take up emotional space. They learn to endure rather than express, to observe rather than participate, to suppress rather than trust. Over time, the child begins to carry the weight of independence long before they are ready. They learn to soothe their own distress, to make sense of confusion on their own, to regulate emotions without guidance. On the surface, this may look like maturity. Internally, it is the quiet labor of a child trying to survive without emotional connection. Emotionally neglected children often grow into adults who struggle to understand their own emotions. Because they received so little reflection from others, they never learned the vocabulary of their inner world. They may feel empty and not know why. They may struggle with trust, not because they fear people, but because no one ever taught them that emotional presence is something they deserve. They may become highly self-sufficient, not as a strength born from confidence, but as a shield built from necessity. One of the most defining features of their loneliness is invisibility. Emotional neglect does not draw attention. There are no outward signs. The child behaves well, stays quiet, adapts. They cause no trouble, ask for little, expect even less. But inside them grows a longing they cannot name, the longing for someone to notice, someone to ask, someone to understand without needing the child to explain. This longing remains with them for years, shaping their relationships, their sense of worth, and the way they move through the world. Emotionally neglected children become careful observers. They grow used to reading the emotional states of others because they had to navigate their environments without guidance. They learn to anticipate moods, avoid conflict, and take responsibility for harmony. But the same awareness that helps them understand others often prevents them from understanding themselves. They know how to accommodate, but not how to ask. They know how to help, but not how to receive. They know how to be present for others, but not how to allow others to be present for them. Their loneliness deepens when they begin to compare their inner experience with the lives of others. They notice how easily some people express feelings, how naturally they seek comfort, how effortlessly they assume they will be understood. The emotionally neglected child does not share these instincts. They watch from a distance, wondering how others learned the emotional language that they never had the chance to practice. They may feel like outsiders in their own relationships, connected by behavior, but distant in emotion. Yet, despite the heaviness of this internal world, emotionally neglected children develop strengths that are often overlooked. They become resilient in ways they never intended. They cultivate independence not as rebellion, but as adaptation. They learn to rely on intuition, to find meaning in small moments, to create inner stability when external support is absent. Their quiet strength is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, perceptive, and deeply human. Still, the loneliness remains, a soft, persistent ache that follows them into adulthood. It manifests not as isolation, but as a sense of emotional distance, a feeling of being slightly detached from the warmth others seem to experience naturally. They may struggle to feel deserving of care. They may hesitate to open up, not because they lack the desire, but because emotional expression feels unfamiliar, almost foreign. They may long for closeness, yet fear the vulnerability it requires, unsure how to be known when they spent so many years being invisible. But this loneliness is not irreversible. When emotionally neglected children grow older and begin to understand their experiences, they gain something powerful: awareness. With awareness comes the ability to build emotional skills they were never taught. They learn to identify their feelings, to express them without apology, to trust that their inner world is worthy of being understood. They begin to form relationships where presence is mutual, where their voice matters, where their emotions are not dismissed but acknowledged. The lonely life of an emotionally neglected child teaches a profound truth about human development. Emotional connection is not a luxury, it is a psychological necessity. When it is absent, the child survives, but they grow into themselves with a sense of insufficiency, an uncertainty about whether they deserve to be seen. Yet the very same experiences that created their loneliness also give them a unique sensitivity, a deep capacity to empathize, to listen, to understand others with extraordinary clarity. Their journey is not defined by what they lacked, but by what they can still build. The loneliness that shaped them becomes a guide, pointing toward the connections they needed and still deserve. It becomes a reminder that emotional presence is something they are allowed to seek, to create, and to trust. And slowly, with time and self-awareness, the quiet ache within them becomes less of a burden and more of a doorway to a life where they are not only self-reliant, but also emotionally seen, understood, and valued.